Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang dhammang sanghang namasam. Okay, friends. So the afternoon session, and usually I am echoing things that are going on in my in my own physiological processes and saying we take it easy on ourselves in the afternoon. We've eaten. It's hotter out. You get a little sleepy on the meditation cushion. Maybe the initial 2 cups of coffee enthusiasm that we started the day with has started to subside. And yeah, we usually take a more broad look at the subject. We say, okay, in the morning we press some of the buttons, we looked at the hard stuff, and then in the afternoon let's look at the positive side of this, because the thing about the Four Noble Truths is 2 of them are kind of bleak. There is suffering and a cause of suffering. But the other side is there's an end of suffering and a way to the end of suffering. Those are the positive side. And every aspect of the teaching is like this. There is work to be done, but the work is done. And that makes it worth it. Right? There isn't just work for work's sake. Oh, that's what Luang Por Liam would say. That was Luang say. He said he had the question like, why do we practice? It wasn't a doubt necessarily, but a question he had floating in his mind that he just couldn't let go of. This why do we practice? Why do we practice? And he arrived at an answer, and this is what some say was a kind of breakthrough moment for him. He realized there is no why. We just practice. That for him was a falling away of the question of why, and that made it, well, what if life just is practice? What if I've created an arbitrary boundary between my life and practice? What if I saw them as different when there's no different? When all the things that you do in your practice are just what you would do in your normal life, there is no need to have a boundary. It's just life. Or you could say it's just practice. There is no life. Either one is accurate, right? And so likewise, we try to sometimes find this for whatever we're looking at. But for this particular topic, I still would like to look at some of the nuances of this, because I find this topic is like really fascinating. As I was saying, we realized at a point that this practice is not for everybody. And it's when you really look at the 3 fetters and the beliefs and attachments that underlie them that you can start to see this. That some people don't want to let go of certain beliefs. Some people don't want to let go of certain things in their life, certain people, places, things, certain ways of identifying with things. Some people are really attached to certain activities that they do with the belief that, no, this helps. And you could tell them, well, what if it doesn't help? And they say, no. I don't know about your meditation stuff, but this helps. This is the way to freedom. You're like, oh, it's like you're just taking pottery, or you're just jogging, or you're just doing this or that. That is it making you wiser? Is it making you more open-hearted? Just like some people don't want to be more wise and open-hearted. Some people just want to get an anesthetic to make it not hurt so much right now. And if they can accomplish that, then that's good enough. And so there is value in looking at this, but it's not a hypothetical exercise. I think you can maybe see resonances of a lot of these ideas in things you either think right now or you have thought in the past. When we talk about the views and such that feed into the barriers to stream entry. But even if you don't really connect with them, like, I've never really believed that, then I bet you've met somebody who does, who like actively holds to that sort of belief. And regardless of how you feel about it, they are quite content with holding on to that belief. And there's nothing you can do to dissuade them. And you will reap only a mountain of suffering if you were to try to dissuade them. And this is, again, like, this practice is not about fixing others. It's something that we do for ourselves. And one thing that we find as we do it, we are having to let go of others in an odd and interesting way. We're kind of realizing that our attachments really can hold us back. And it's not that we lose anything necessarily. We just don't cling to the way that we identified and objectified certain things in the past. Yeah. Even ways of acting that seem very appropriate, we just start giving up. Like in the list this morning of envy or jealousy or denigration or domineering. Like if you're a manager in an office, it can seem like really appropriate that you're commanding, that you manipulate people, you keep yourself on top, and you kind of work everything so that you'll always be in charge. You'll always be the one who can decide who gets hired, who gets fired, who gets a raise, who gets demoted, that sort of thing. It can seem really appropriate. But as you begin to approach this, you realize that will always have an aspect of suffering that cannot be removed from it. It's implicit in those activities. It's miserable. Nobody likes that. Nobody likes that. Even the people on top do not enjoy that activity. They do it because they think they need to. But what if that very thought of what I think this is necessary were to fall away? Well, then you would not do it. You wouldn't do something that was unwholesome and makes you feel bad and makes others feel bad if you didn't think you were going to get anything good from it. It just wouldn't make any sense. So then that activity has to fall away. And likewise, it's all a package thing. Like we're talking about, we'll talk about views and the views that we hold to, but these are part of the same package of what falls away as the sila part. Yeah, the killing, stealing, cheating, lying, drinking part. They're related somehow. They're connected at the same point somehow. The killing mother, killing father, shedding the blood of a Buddha. They're connected some way to holding to a speculative view. They're connected some way to having a belief in impermanence, a belief in a soul or an essence that you have somewhere tucked away. And where is that point that they connect? So in the morning session, part of the theme was, where is that point of connection for you? So one thing I wanted to put out as a possible way of contemplating this, because it was nice to just give you all the information and just let you just work with it however you would, but also to try to form it into a question that you can carry into your own meditation, maybe something succinct. And I would say if you were to look at that list of things with the fetters and all of the things that get abandoned at stream entry and all of the things that are secured at stream entry, could you boil it down to just like, this is the thing I need to focus on to get all of this? And what would that thing be? And I think it could be very interesting if you do this, because I think you would arrive at different answers. I don't think there is a right answer. Some people it might be this sila, some people it might be impermanence, some people it might be the views and doubts. But I think if you ask yourself the question, you really look at it is like, what seems to me to be the core of what this insight is getting at? You might learn something about yourself and what brought you to the practice. What is really standing in the way of you feeling safe and secure and directed in the practice? Because that's kind of also what's attained at stream entry. It's not necessarily that you're not a mess. There's plenty of stream enters that are a complete mess, right? Some famously so. But it's that the atta, the goal, the direction, it's secure. Right? You're a mess, but you know the way out. Regardless of how diligently you work in that direction, you keep facing that direction. You've seen the goal. You've understood the premise. Yeah, that suffering can cease. So let's take a look at this tangle of views, this thicket of views, swamp of views. Let me get this out of the way. Okay. So I'm going to just put some of these out here, and then we'll chew on them for a minute. So these are what are called mundane wrong views. So regardless of whether or not you're practicing Buddhism or not, whether you're practicing for enlightenment or not, these are always bad views to hold on to. There is nothing given, nothing offered, nothing sacrificed. There is no fruit or result of good or bad actions. There is no this world. There is no other world. There's no father, no mother, no spontaneously reborn beings, no contemplatives or Brahmins who, by faring rightly, practicing rightly, proclaim this world and the next after having directly known and realized it for themselves. This is couched in it's a translation. It's Pali, but some basic ideas here is disbelieving in rebirth and disbelieving in that there are other worlds, other states of existence other than the one that's right in front of us. Yeah. Disbelief in the merit that comes with wholesome actions. Disbelief in the consequences of unwholesome actions. There are that you could do some negative things and there'll be no bad consequences. Disbelief in that there are enlightened beings free of greed, hatred, and delusion. Right? These are always bad ideas. Again, the concept here isn't you have to believe in rebirth, but the disbelief in rebirth, number one, is at odds with our reality. Yeah, I mean, there's a mountain of proof if you look at it that something is going on, that you are not just this YOLO. It's not you only live once, because you have a lot of stuff going on in your mind and your heart and in the world around you that doesn't seem to be random. And there's so much going on. It couldn't possibly have arisen just through an accidental bumping together of certain chemicals, there's certain genes, but that there seems to our lives, something seems to extend beyond our one life. You don't have to know what it is, and that's the thing. Is what's important. What is the fetter here is the disbelief, because that when you see it as a problem, it tends to be a tangible problem, right? And people tend to stick to that and say, I can't get behind this rebirth thing. And if you really, I mean, think about that. I can't get behind this rebirth thing. This is why I'm not gonna believe this, or I'm only gonna provisionally believe it. I'm going to believe this part and not that part, because this rebirth thing is just way too far out there. What are you doing except setting conditions on the degree to which you can even understand the teaching? Because you're not taking it at face value. You're only cherry picking what is agreeable to you. Right? And that is an attachment. It is an attachment that will limit your ability to grow. And this is why we talk about these views, because this is what we're looking at. And yeah, I don't know what's to say. It's a really bad idea to cling to views, but we've gone over that at many different iterations, many different daylongs. That these are the barrier. The capacity to hold to these is the barrier to just being able to practice. Like, these are the things that cover up our doubt and our capacity for doubt. And we talked about this with fear, how sometimes a greed or a hatred, attachment or a frustration, a grievance can be used to cover up something that we're insecure about, that we're afraid of, that we don't want to admit to ourselves. We can hold on to something as a distraction. In the same way, these kind of beliefs can be something that we hold on to not face the fact that we really don't know what's going on. And it's very funny that at stream entry, the person still doesn't know what's going on, but there is an amount of being okay with that arises, right? They just accept the degree to which they don't know what's going on, but they also are willing to believe that there are things going on that they don't understand, and that is okay too. And this is, as I say, it's a tangle. And this word here, dittasava, if there is one word in the Pali Canon that is used to describe the three fetters as a package, this, I think, unless I'm mistaken, it only shows up in the commentaries. But this would be the only one word that's used for this whole mess of things as a single thing. It's called the outflow of views, the taint of views. Yeah, this is what falls away. And as it falls away, all of the stuff we talked about this morning comes into play. Yeah. But in other places, we see these are speculative views that the Buddha points out. These, if cultivated, cultivate doubt. They strengthen doubt. They make doubt stronger and more pervasive and more persistent in our mind. Just thinking, is the universe eternal? Is it not eternal? Is it finite? Is it infinite? The soul and the body are one and the same, or the soul and the body are different. A sentient being exists after death, or they don't exist after death, or they both exist and don't exist after death, or they neither exist nor not exist after death. This consciousness that I'm experiencing right now, this is what is reborn. This is what wanders on and on through samsara, not something else. This consciousness I have will be reincarnated. There are questions about who is it who gets the result of an action, right? So I do an action, but the future me, is that somebody different? In a future life, is somebody else gets the consequences? Then why should I care? Or are they the same? Are they different? Are they one and the same? There's a way that you can spin yourself in circles about this, right? And you can kind of see how the very nature of applying our mind to this, there's a trap waiting where we talk ourselves out of wholesome activities. We talk ourselves into unwholesome activities. It's very dangerous, and there's no solution to that. Those philosophical traps are there waiting. They are part of the questions and the assumptions behind the questions, that the questions in some way encompass the reality of the situation. You see, we only get two options. The soul and the body are the same, or the soul and the body are different. Is it A or B? There's no C, there's no D. There's an assumption there that this is what's important. This is what we're really talking about. you get caught in this philosophical trap just by asking the question and pondering it and speculating about it and spinning in circles over and over and over again. And the Buddha points out that there is only one solution to this, which he calls yoniso manasikara, or wise attention, which is don't do this. Don't even go into these matters and speculate about it, because they're not related to the goal. They're not essential. You don't need answers to these to be able to do what's really important. Yeah, so there's a lot more to this notion of views and the outflow of views that's worth looking at, talking about, pondering. And preface this as saying, okay, so this morning I didn't hold back on the fact that we're going to talk about stream entry. This is the Theravada, like, yes, if you want stream entry, you want full enlightenment, you want to be free of suffering, you believe that whether or not you understand rebirth, you believe that it's a problem that you want to fix anyway. You want to be sure that you're not going to be reborn. If that's a possibility, you don't want that to happen. That sounds like a bad idea. And definitely you don't want to be reborn here in this mess we call Earth. If it has to be somewhere nicer, somewhere more pleasant. And maybe you're taking all of these things on. And you put that out there, understanding that and our friends who've just been on the meditation retreat, I said I was using you as my kind of as my thermometer, basically, to say how controversial what I was saying would be, because you've maybe been in an environment where things have been kind of softened, right? You've been a lay meditation retreat. It's intentionally designed not to be upsetting, because you're going to, yes, exactly, you're going to be there for a month, right? Why would somebody take the risk of upsetting you on day 2 and having the entire month be absolutely miserable? But I don't know how to convey any other way except to say that's just not how things work in a monastic setting. And David, back me up, is like from day 1, your teachers will press your buttons, and they will press your buttons as hard as they can without you walking out the door. Right? And
Beth often
yeah,
does that as well. She doesn't pull any punches. It's
well,
very
good, because I think, yeah, this is something that comes with sincere practice. And Beth was also a monastic, so she probably got tired of the soft way over time too. Is that over time you start to realize if you don't confront these things, there will be people who are never going to understand, and they will hang around. And there will be people who could understand who might not get there because they just don't apply themselves enough. And you fail both of them by not approaching these topics. Yeah. There are those who will have difficulty, like looking at these views and asking themselves, do I really have to let go of this? Do I really have to challenge this or get over this in order to be enlightened? And a compassionate teacher would say, yes, let it go. It's not helping you. Let it go. Yes. And they will help remind you of these over and over again until you do let them go. But it's the funny thing about, and this is how you can kind of tell a sincere practitioner from somebody who's not yet stable in the practice, is they'll usually be grateful. Yeah, they'll usually be like, that was really hard. Oh, really hard. You made me really mad. I had to go in a corner and he's like, that guy, who does he think he is? But through the process of working through that, don't you learn? The weird thing about this is, and I found this over and over again, is that is the most profitable activity, right? You have to be confronted with an uncomfortable truth and learn how to process it. That's kind of what this is all about. That's the Four Noble Truths, basically. Yes, there is suffering. Learn to deal with it. If you learn to deal with it, you will become an adult. If you become an adult, then you can you can be responsible for yourself, basically. After that point, I don't have to look after you anymore. You're good, right? So all of this looking at these views is for that sake, right? You cannot attain competence and security in the practice until you can look at these things and just kind of laugh at them and be like, no, thank you. And it can't be done. And that isn't to say like you're not doing anything until you get to that point. This is why we call it practice, right? You'll get better at it. And definitely day one, when I walked into the monastery, it was a mess. I had all sorts of attachments, all sorts of views. I didn't know anything about Buddhism, really. But this was the one thing that I had, and the one thing that my teachers were able to encourage. When they saw that I was getting in too deep, they would lighten up on me a bit. But when they saw that I was getting comfortable, they would start turning the screws a bit tighter, right? Because once you get it, there is no talking with Laura. There's simply no way to calculate the amount of suffering that is abandoned at stream. And we were talking about like having compassion for somebody you might meet in your daily activities. And when one understands, takes this on as a goal, understands what happens at stream entry, and when you take enlightenment as a goal, you realize that no matter how much suffering you will experience now until you reach your goal, it is just that much. It is a finite amount. But the people that you would meet, anybody who is still clinging to these views and doesn't want to let them go, the amount of suffering they have in front of them is still infinite. It still cannot be measured. And that brings up tremendous compassion for me. It's like, oh wow, that's terrible. But there's nothing that can be done about it. This is something that we have to do for ourselves. So when we look at these, if any of this brings something up for you and you're like, I'm not sure I'm on board with that, good. Take that to some meditation session, not necessarily your next one, but some meditation session where you're willing, ready to look at it. You're in a good spot and say, why did that bother me? What button did that press? What seemed unacceptable about that? And in doing that, in investigating that, I think you will find that if you have to face a reality, like if you are alive, you will hear things that are disagreeable. You cannot avoid it. You can avoid it for a time, but sooner or later you will hear something that is disagreeable to you, right? That getting away from that can't be the end of suffering, right? The only possible way that you could hear something disagreeable and not suffer to that degree is if you figured out why it causes you suffering. If you get to the point where you can hear something disagreeable and not suffer over it, then you are permanently safe. Because somebody says something you don't agree with, and you're just like, I don't agree with that. Somebody says something you agree with, and you're like, yeah, that sounds right. You're not attached either way. You're fine. You're safe. And this is yeah. Anyway, let's just press a few of these buttons and finish out this study guide here. Yeah. So belief in rebirth. Does that bring up anything for you? I mean, just look at it. Yeah. But then a belief in any kind of God above the laws of causality. So every time we have a group of people come from outside and visit the temple, They'll ask us, do Buddhists believe in a God? And every single time I'll say, well, I mean, we believe in all kinds of gods, but we believe they grow old and die. That it's more like a station rather than a permanent being. And they all kind of frown at that. It's the first time they've ever heard something like that. And there's nothing to be done about it. I don't want to sugarcoat it. And I was like, I honestly don't care. If there is a God, it doesn't change the fact that I've got to cultivate the wholesome and abandon the unwholesome. The the project doesn't change. Yeah. So how dear is that belief to us? Yeah. But some people take it the other way and they believe that all things can be explained scientifically. And if something doesn't scientifically can't be proven, can't be shown and validated, that it can't be true. And again, it's like, do you suffer when that is challenged? When somebody talks about a God, do you squirm? Yeah, because it goes both ways. I can find it. I can find it just as cringeworthy to hear somebody be absolutely infatuated with an atheistic scientific belief set, and we were like, that's as much a dogmatic religion as anything. Yeah. There's suffering to be had there. A belief that all beings will eventually become enlightened. This is a question the Buddha would not answer. When he was asked this question, he would often turn it around. Yeah, he would say, I will not say they will all become enlightened. I will not say they won't all become enlightened. Rather, I will say those who do become enlightened will become enlightened by cultivating the Eightfold Path. And you can see an example of that in the Mahaparinibbana Sutta, Digha Nikaya 16, I think it is. And that's, again, the matter, it's fraught. The notion is fraught. There's an assumption there that's broken. Yeah, it's not A or B, it's C. But you suffer basically just by bringing up the idea. Yeah. What does other beings have to do with your own practice, your own pursuit of not suffering? The people get spun up a lot in the West, in the modern world, around the brain and the new sciences of the brain and things they're finding out about the brain. And so this is a kind of materiality view. So looking at Sakaya Ditti, all of these things are various aspects of Sakaya Ditti. Is the mind, is it derived from the brain? Or is the mind one thing and the brain is another? There's a danger even in that view. Like if you don't wear a helmet when you're out riding your bicycle because you think that the brain doesn't matter, it's just an organ, the mind is outside of the brain. Well, I see it could end badly for you, right? It just ignores the situation. It's like you have a human body that can learn and practice if you take care of it. Maybe both are part of this package. Yeah. The Silabhata Paramasa, the rites and rituals part here, it comes out in a variety of ways. The essence is any activity that you do, believing that activity will purify you or bring you to enlightenment. And ancient India had all kinds of funny ones that we think are very quaint in the modern day, like ritual bathing or fire pujas or praying for salvation. We have other ones in the modern day, like taking vitamin C, right? And we just got to accept that we're not free of this, right? We have stuff here to look at. Basically, enlightenment is enlightenment. Like letting go of greed, hatred, and delusion is letting go of greed, hatred, and delusion. We cannot say that I do this action to let go of greed, hatred, and delusion. The letting go is its own thing. And now we have all sorts of skillful things that we do, like we go into nice air conditioned halls that are quiet and sit on nice cushions. with other people who are also sitting quietly on cushions in order to practice meditation. These are all skillful ways of doing it. And I don't know anybody. Wait, I immediately talk myself out of that. It's like, yeah, I think there are people who assume that by going into a peaceful place like a temple and sitting down on a cushion, they will be purifying some of their suffering. It's a holy place and it will give them good vibes and make them better. And I mean, have you encountered this? Because yes, it does happen, right? Rites and rituals, this attachment is a thing. And here's another one that might surprise you. Like there has never been any being in the history of enlightenment who has attained full enlightenment while still clinging to a vow. You know, you might have heard that the Buddha himself set a strong determination in Aditana to become a Buddha, a fully enlightened Buddha. But what doesn't get talked about so much is he had to let go of that vow in order to attain enlightenment. He couldn't hold on to that vow through enlightenment. The thing was, Venerable Ananda likens it to like when one wants to go to a park and they get together their family and they get together their cart and they go through the city out to the outskirts of the city and they arrive at the park. At the time they arrive at the park, they no longer need that desire to go to the park because they're at the park. So they let the desire go. In the same way, the Buddha had to reach a point where he let go of his vow because he realized that all of the conditions for attaining enlightenment and becoming a Buddha were set. Right? So this is something that came up in a conversation I had with somebody a week or two ago. That this is a thing that's talked about in Theravada Buddhism, mostly by monastics, because again, we don't try to be controversial. It just happens. But there are a number of important Thai forest teachers who had to go through this process of really asking themselves, have they made a strong determination or bodhisattva vow in a previous life? Because maybe they find at some point there's a resistance in their practice. They're still holding on to something and they don't quite know what it is. And the thing is, there isn't a process of letting these go. Like um, you don't have to chant the fire sermon 108 times, walking clockwise around a stupa in order to undo your bodhisattva vow. This is a promise that you've been clinging to. You know, but the thing is, while you're clinging to it, you cannot attain freedom. It's an attachment to a belief that the vow itself is part of the enlightenment, which it is not. There cannot be an attachment that produces enlightenment. All attachments have to be let go of. But because this is a view, it's a very interesting thing is that our Buddha, when he was a bodhisattva, when he was pursuing enlightenment, there was one lifetime where he spoke ill about the current Buddha of that age. He badmouthed him and wanted nothing to do with him. And his friend dragged him to go hear a Dhamma talk. And afterwards, he felt bad about it. He realized, like, oh wow, that wasn't very skillful. It's because even though he was on the path to be a Buddha, and he had cultivated so long all of the perfections of character, he was almost done cultivating the perfections. Still, he was capable of denigrating the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha, right? In other instances, he had so much faith for him, but in this particular one, it just rubbed him the wrong way that there was these guys walking around pretending to be Brahmins when obviously they were just filthy ascetics. Yeah, he learned the error of his ways and he actually paid for it in his last lifetime, karmically. But this is the example. He's like he wasn't a stream enterer yet. He was still capable of all of these kinds of misconduct because of his vow that he was still holding to. Was because if he didn't hold to it, he wouldn't have become a fully enlightened Buddha in the end. He would have maybe attained stream entry and become an arahant. But that is the power of these views, these vows. Yeah, we cannot say that any particular vow is exempt from this. Any particular view is exempt from this. If you're worried, um, I suggest an experiment. Let the vow go and attain stream entry. And if you still need the vow, pick it up on the other side. I guarantee you 100% it'll be fine. You'll be better off for it. Yeah. The other thing is that this means that our precepts, the 5 precepts, the 8 precepts, the 10 precepts, the 227, these are not vows. They are not clung to. And there's a bunch of exemption clauses in the monastic rules that say, well, in this circumstance, this rule doesn't apply. In this circumstance, this rule doesn't apply. Yeah, because life is messy. We don't hold to these dogmatically. We see them as guiding principles. We use them as trainings. We realize that when we do get things right, we will never need to break these. Yeah, but we don't assume that we're going to get them right from the beginning. A kind of essential belief that I've encountered a lot is not believing that it's possible for me to change. People say that a lot. I think I've reached my limit. I don't think I can let this go. I don't think I can overcome this. It seems like I'm always going to have these problems. And yeah, we all get down from time to time. The thing is, do you shake it off? Are you able to, or is it like a really stuck, hard and fast belief? Hmm. Something that comes with stream entry, worth mentioning, is that there seems to be corresponding breakthroughs that happen. I don't know if anybody has ever heard of these experiences where somebody's practicing loving kindness, metta, and they're trying to get it, they don't quite get it, and then they have some sort of vision or memory or feeling, and suddenly they're crying. And they don't know why they're crying, and they're just breaking down. And it's like, oh, it's so beautiful. Yeah, this is one of these things that can really get in the way and it is a byproduct of us holding to things, holding to views, is that it can block our ability to have metta or also to be generous, to actually just give something without expecting something in return. You know, our views can hold these hold us back from these things. Yeah. And when we do let go of the views, we find that if we've previously had difficulty with metta or being generous or being compassionate, sometimes it just starts to make sense all of a sudden. Like, oh, that's what they were talking about. That's what they meant when they said compassion. This is what it feels like. Yeah. And the final thoughts on this and kind of how to look at it is there's a phrase in the Thai. It's called "mai na," and Ajahn Chah, the teacher, was known to say this a lot to try to as a kind of mantra, is to try to explain to his students what this mind state of stream entry could be like. Yeah, Maina means don't know, don't know, don't know. Is this guy enlightened? Maina, don't know. Is there a God? Maina, don't know. Is there rebirth? Maina, don't know. You know, how do you know what you teach? Maybe you could be wrong. It's like, Maina, don't know. Seems to work for me. Give it a try. Yeah. And it's an amazing and freeing ability to be able to say that. To be able to say, look, there's a limit to what I know. There's a limit to what I've experienced. I don't know. I don't have an answer for you. And when somebody can say that with a total smile on their face, like, are you going to, do you know what happens after death? They're like, no, I don't know. Yeah, look at it. I'm just suffering over it. I honestly, sincerely don't have a clue. It's all hearsay. I've never died. Yeah, I'm still waiting. Yeah, and it's simple. In the Zen tradition, in Japanese, there was a teacher called Hakuin, and there's a famous story where Hakuin was accused of having impregnated a girl in the village. And the parents got so upset and they came and they brought the baby and they said, "Here, this baby is yours." And they plopped it into his lap. And he's like, "Oh, Soka." He said, "Is that so?" And just kind of looking at it was like, what do they mean? But not arguing them, not taking them to court, just saying, "Well, that's a funny statement." Because he didn't see how that's possible, but if they say so, and he took care of the kid, and he looked after the kid because I mean they gave it to him, and eventually the village girl kind of owned up to it that it wasn't Hakuin's not the father, it was this other neighbor boy, and really kind of feel bad about it, but I thought you'd get upset. And then now the parents are like even more upset. And they go back to Hakuin and like, look, we're really sorry. We didn't, could we have the baby back? It's not yours. And Hakuin just looks at it, this baby that he's been caring for months and months and getting it milk and, changing its diaper. And he's like, oh, Soka. And he gives them the baby back. It's not his. And it's an interesting take on life, right? What would life be like without strongly held views and opinions about the way things are? Why not? I don't know. Is this true? Could be. Maybe. Are you wrong? Maybe. Are you right? Maybe. It doesn't really affect what I'm going to do tomorrow. Right? I'm still going to be practicing to try to get free of suffering. Right? I've told the story of the Thai monk that um, arrived in America, and we had these strong views about the way things were done in America. We go around and we say, "Oh, this is how we do this here," and go, "Really?" And every time he said it, we'd be like, "Well, am I sure? Is this really how we do it? Is this how we do it here, but we don't do it over there?" And we started to really like question, like, but it became a mantra. Whenever somebody made a definitive statement, this is the way things are, I found myself going, really? I found that to be really powerful, right? Because this is one of the things that can just kind of fade from the mind, this sense of definitive, this is the way things are kind of statement. And where previously doubt and confusion arose around the unknown, now there is just a sense of the unknown is okay. It's not really that dangerous. And when you can be okay with the unknown, you don't need the views. You don't need to cover up the uncertainty with anything. Well, so these are some thoughts to look at. And maybe I didn't even touch on any view that you feel that you hold at all, or maybe I hit every single one and you think the whole project is a wash. Time to leave. But the thing is, this is a project. It can be done, and this is part of it. And like I said, people who care about it realize that whether or not these are pleasant things to address, they will only benefit from looking at them. Like looking at these things can't hurt you. If you have taken a bodhisattva view and you're like really attached to it, and it's really a vehicle for your practice and liberation, you don't think you can give it up. So I say, give it up, attain stream entry, take it back up, you'll be fine. No harm done. Yeah, because I mean, how could letting go of doubt be a bad thing? How could letting go of breaking the precepts be a bad thing? Obviously, these are good things. So then what harm could be done, right? And yeah, I mean that's unless anybody Any thoughts or questions? We can just start the meditation portion. Yeah, Grace.
Thank you for the talk, full talks. I'm wondering what you might say about doubt in relation to not not doubt in the Buddha Dhamma Sangha, but doubt in sort of like path and life choices, like with desires, like there's some level of disbelief in it, but it's still like not enough wisdom to penetrate it, sort of thing. And so desires that are not just total, renunciation and committing fully to the path that come up and are like very enticing, not seeing the full danger and the gratification for escape. So, how to sort of practice through those times that are not like a full, like thicket of desire, basically, or like thicket of wrong view, but not necessarily doubt in the triple gem per se.
That's a great question. That actually helped kind of inspire the topic for the day. It was a kind of discussion that we were having in the Wednesday programs about, about like self-doubt. Like, am I capable of this, or why am I spending my time the way I am? Does that mean I don't believe in it? And it does seem that there's work to be done in terms of developing self-metta, like very strongly as I was say an antidote, but as a buffer for these kinds of thoughts, right? A lot of our ability to just feel bad about the choices we're making or where we are in life is just based on our ability to feel bad about ourselves in general. But the more that we find things to appreciate about ourselves, the less that starts to stick, right? And the weird thing is, we don't necessarily that is completely separate from making better life choices, right? It's a perspective change. And our life choices continue to be motivated by whatever they're motivated by, right? And that's looking at the mind as a conditioned phenomena. You realize that the reason you make the choices that you make is because it seems like the right thing to do, right? And you can't create another thought that says, actually, I'd much rather do this and expect it to compete. You're still making those choices for reasons. And we don't often understand the reasons why we do what we do. So sometimes the process of accepting who we are allows us to accept, I don't know why I keep doing this. I guess it feels like the right thing to do. I'm really questioning, but I seem to be really into it. Yeah, and it helps. I could say, there's a comparing notes with another monk about the enlightened beings that we've met. The funny thing is, I don't necessarily become paragons of Dhamma practice. Like 100% of their life is devoted to only reading the suttas, chanting, and meditating. The enlightened beings that we have met are almost always talking about building monasteries, who ordained where, what kind of shrubbery is that? Maybe we should plant that over at our temple. They have as much a percent of their time is spent talking about Dhamma as any one of you on retreat, right? But they are 100% okay with it. They are 100% okay with their level of application. That is what's different.
Interesting.
That's the only way I can really see to understand it. Like what is going on there? Is it because realistically, you probably practice as much as you're willing to tolerate practicing, or a little bit more, and you're white knuckling and bearing through it. Yeah. So the being down on ourselves for not doing more can't be the answer. And the ability to do more comes naturally. Yeah. It often not because we insist on it. It is often we just it everything we do gets easier with time. So you're already doing more now than you did years ago. And you were doing more then than you were doing before you started practicing. So we can see the progression and know that the progression, that's the kind of the other thing about stream entry. The progression happens whether or not you're really applying yourself. Yeah.
The log inclining towards the ocean, right?
Yes. Yeah. And that is like their application does get us places. Yeah. There's uh what is it? The tapas. The tapas are the supreme austerity, like something the Buddha said about if what is it that burns up the defilements? It's this application of mind to the practice. Yeah, when we really try hard and do something about it, we might not even be able to see how many defilements were burning up in that instance, right? Because they're mental habits. We don't know, but we are. And that's the thing. If we could see 7 lifetimes out and measure how many things, how many kinds of suffering won't arise in the future because of the meditation and the work that we're doing right now, we'd be like, oh wow, that's awesome, that's great. I'm doing it. This is it. This is the practice, right? We'd be so proud of ourselves. But that's what life is like. We can't see that, right? But we do develop a sort of trust that once we get there, we'll look back and be like, yeah, that was when I was doing it. That the happiness I have now, that's when I conditioned it. That's when I planted the seeds. So that's all we get to know is that we're planting the seeds and that they will grow because they're good seeds.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. So the meditation portion, we go another hour and 15 minutes, I guess. And anybody who would like to come back at the end at 4:30 Eastern, it's 3:30 Central Time. And then we just kind of open it up and there can be just a dialogue or um, anything that came up. Yeah. And we close out. But if you feel good, then it's good to see you. Yeah, the room remains open. We sit and walk. And yeah, let's get to it.